She can't go on. Not with that imperfection. The words sliced through the backstage chaos of Milan Fashion Week like broken glass. Sarah Chen's fingers instinctively rose to the scar that traced her left cheekbone, a testament to the car crash that had almost taken her life 2 years ago. Around her, the pre-show frenzy of the season's most anticipated fashion event stuttered to a halt. Makeup artists froze mid-brush, stylists clutched their garment bags, and the other models watched with a mixture of pity and relief that it wasn't them. The prestigious Palazzo della Moda glittered under crystal chandeliers, its front row a constellation of fashion royalty and A-list celebrities. Through the curtain, Sarah could see them all. Editors tapping on phones, photographers adjusting lenses, influencers preening for their pre-show selfies. This was supposed to be her moment, her comeback. After months of rehabilitation and countless rejections, she'd finally landed the opening slot for Milano Eleganza's spring showcase. Now, with 10 minutes until showtime, everything was crumbling. Victoria Blackwood, the show's director, stood before Sarah like a sentinel of traditional beauty standards, her Louboutins clicking against the polished floor as she circled the young model. "Darling, this is haute couture, not some charity campaign. We sell perfection." In the corner, a figure in an oversized black hoodie slowly lowered their phone, dark sunglasses reflecting the scene. No one had noticed Lady Gaga's arrival backstage, but she had seen everything, and she wasn't about to let it stand. Sarah's world contracted to a single point of clarity, her reflection in the backstage mirror. The scar, a delicate silvery line that curved from her temple to her jaw, caught the harsh fluorescent lighting. 2 years ago, she'd learned to see it as a mark of survival, a reminder that she'd fought her way back from the edge of death. But now, under Victoria Blackwood's withering gaze, it felt like a brand of shame. Around her, the backstage atmosphere had shifted from pre-show excitement to uncomfortable tension. Whispers rippled through the crowd of stylists and assistants, their eyes darting between Sarah and Victoria like spectators at a tennis match. The other models, girls Sarah had shared coffee and cab rides with during rehearsals, suddenly found their phones fascinating. In the fashion industry, survival meant never choosing the wrong side of a power play. The $50,000 gown she wore, a masterpiece of hand-beaded constellations on midnight silk, suddenly felt like armor too heavy to bear. Sarah's hands, steady through 1,000 runway walks, began to tremble. Victoria Blackwood's reputation in the fashion industry was built on perfection. Her shows weren't just fashion presentations. They were carefully orchestrated performances where every detail was controlled, every flaw eliminated. She'd once delayed a Milan showcase for 3 hours because a hemline was 2 millimeters off. Now her perfectly Botoxed forehead creased slightly as she examined Sarah like a flawed piece of merchandise. "Do you have any idea what's at stake here?" Victoria's voice carried that particular tone of elite Manhattan condescension, the kind that could strip paint from walls. "We have Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, every major fashion editor in that audience, not to mention the social media impact. One imperfect image, one wrong angle caught on camera." She gestured to Sarah's scar with a manicured hand, as if pointing out a coffee stain on white silk. The worst part was the nodding. Editors, assistants, even some of the other models, all bobbing their heads in agreement like fashion-forward puppets. In their world, Victoria's logic was unassailable. Perfection wasn't just an ideal, it was the only acceptable currency. The backstage monitors flickered with live feeds from the front-of-house cameras. Through them, Sarah watched the fashion elite settling into their seats, a sea of black designer clothing and carefully curated expressions. 6 months of preparation, countless fittings, and endless runway practice sessions, all dissolving like sugar in rain because she didn't fit someone else's definition of flawless. In the corner, the figure in the black hoodie hadn't moved, but something had changed in their posture. a subtle shift from observation to coiled intention. A few people were starting to notice, whispers spreading as recognition flickered through the crowd. Lady Gaga was known for making statements at fashion events, for challenging the industry's rigid standards. The way she was watching Victoria Blackwood now carried the same energy as before her legendary meat dress moment at the VMAs. Victoria was still talking, her voice rising with rehearsed concern. "It's really for your own good, darling. The cameras are so unforgiving these days. Social media can be so cruel. We're protecting you, really." She reached for the gown's zipper, clearly expecting Sarah to step out of her dreams without a fight. Sarah's fingers curled into the beaded silk of her gown, each crystal catching the light like frozen tears. The dress had been fitted to her body through dozens of painstaking hours, each bead hand-sewn to create a galaxy across the midnight fabric. It wasn't just a dress, it was a masterpiece that had been entrusted to her, chosen specifically for her height, her walk, her ability to make fabric move like water across the runway. "I earned this." Her voice came out barely above a whisper, but it carried through the sudden stillness backstage. The makeup artists paused mid-stroke, the hairspray mist hanging in the air like suspended time. Victoria's perfectly penciled eyebrows arched in surprise. Models weren't supposed to talk back. "Excuse me?" The show director's voice dripped with Arctic disdain. The clicking of her heels against the floor grew sharper as she stepped closer, towering over Sarah in her designer pumps. "You earned nothing. We gave you an opportunity, and you failed to meet our standards. This is business, not a personal growth seminar." The monitors showed 5 minutes until showtime. In the front row, Anna Wintour was checking her watch. Somewhere in the building, a sound system began pumping out the first bass notes of the show's opening music, the vibrations trembling through the floor like distant thunder. The figure in the black hoodie stood up slowly, pulling down their hood. A ripple of recognition spread through the crowd as platinum blonde hair caught the light. Lady Gaga removed her sunglasses, her expression unreadable, but her intent clear in every deliberate movement. The click of Lady Gaga's boots against the floor cut through the bass vibrations as she crossed the space. Every head turned, every phone raised, the air electric with the potential for viral content. She moved with the easy confidence of someone who had turned every fashion don't into an iconic do. Each step a reminder that she had built an empire by defying exactly these kinds of standards. "Victoria." Gaga's voice carried both warmth and steel. "I couldn't help but overhear your perspective on perfection." She positioned herself beside Sarah, the contrast striking. A global superstar in a simple black hoodie standing shoulder to shoulder with a model in couture. "Tell me something. What did you think of my meat dress?" Victoria's composure flickered. "That was different. That was art, a statement." "It was raw meat at an awards show," Gaga interrupted, a slight smile playing at her lips. "The press called it disgusting, offensive, a career-ending mistake. Now it's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame." She turned to Sarah, really looking at her face, at the scar that had caused such controversy. "You know what I see when I look at this young woman? I see strength. I see survival. I see someone who walked through fire and came out wearing her story like a crown." The backstage crowd had grown, drawn by the confrontation. Phones were broadcasting live, Instagram stories multiplying like digital wildfire. Victoria Blackwood's carefully curated world was about to experience what happened when Lady Gaga decided to rewrite the rules. Victoria's phone buzzed incessantly. Messages from the show's sponsors, designers, and publicists flooding in as the backstage confrontation went viral. The hashtag #Runway scar was already trending. Her carefully orchestrated show was spiraling beyond her control, but she stood her ground, years of industry power behind her stance. "This isn't about personal statements," she snapped, her professional veneer cracking. This is about the designers who trusted us with their vision, about buyer expectations, about maintaining standards that have defined haute couture for generations. Not everyone gets to be on this runway. Not everyone deserves... Deserves? Lady Gaga's voice cut through the air like a blade through silk. The bass music seemed to pulse with her words. Let me tell you about deserve. I was told I was too ethnic, too weird, too fat for pop music. Every no became a reason to say, watch me. She turned to address the growing crowd of models, makeup artists, and stylists. How many of you have starved yourselves for this industry? Changed your faces? Hidden your scars, physical or otherwise? The silence was deafening. In that moment, Sarah straightened her spine, the beaded constellations on her gown catching light like stars coming alive. Through the monitors, they could see the audience growing restless, the show now running 6 minutes late. Victoria glanced at her watch, then at the runway entrance, her authority hanging by a thread as whispers spread through the crowd. The fashion world was about to witness something unprecedented, and every phone in the room was ready to capture it. The opening beats of the runway music cut off abruptly, leaving a vacuum of silence. Lady Gaga reached for the zipper of her hoodie, letting it fall to reveal a simple black tank top underneath. Her own scars, the ones she'd earned fighting through the industry's brutality, were visible on her shoulders, proud and unconcealed. Here's what's going to happen, she announced, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had transformed the very meaning of entertainment. Sarah opens the show exactly as planned, but not just as a model, as a statement. A statement that beauty isn't about hiding our stories, it's about wearing them with pride. Victoria's laugh was sharp and desperate. You can't just... I can, and I will. Gaga's eyes flashed. I'm buying the entire collection, every piece, right now. She pulled out her phone, her fingers moving swiftly. My team is already transferring the funds, which means these clothes, this show, they're mine to showcase as I see fit. The backstage erupted in chaos. Stylists whispered frantically, phones captured every moment, and the other models began to move, slowly but deliberately, to stand behind Sarah. One by one, they wiped away makeup, revealed their own perceived flaws, birthmarks, scars, the beautiful imperfections that made them human. Through the monitors, they could see the front row buzzing with speculation about the delay. Anna Wintour had removed her sunglasses, a rare sight that signaled the gravity of the moment. The fashion world was about to witness a revolution, and its spark would be a single silver scar. The runway lights blazed to life, and with them came a new soundtrack, the opening notes of Lady Gaga's Born This Way, filling the prestigious Palazzo della Moda. Victoria's face went pale as she recognized the statement being made. This wasn't just a fashion show anymore. It was a revolution in real time. My scar, Sarah's voice rang out clear and strong, is from pushing a child out of the way of a drunk driver. I spent 6 months learning to walk again, and another year learning to face myself in the mirror. She touched the silvery line on her face. No longer a mark of shame, but a badge of courage. Today, I'm not just walking for a designer. I'm walking for everyone who's ever been told they're not enough. Lady Gaga stepped forward, her presence commanding the space. Fashion isn't about hiding who we are, she declared, her voice carrying the weight of her own battles. It's about celebrating what makes us unique. Every scar, every mark, every so-called imperfection. They're not flaws, they're stories. And tonight, we're telling those stories. The other models were transforming the show in real time, adjusting clothes to reveal rather than hide, turning the runway preparation into a statement of authenticity. Phones captured everything, social media exploding with support as the live streams reached hundreds of thousands. In the front row, even Anna Wintour's stoic expression had shifted to one of intense interest. The fashion world was witnessing its own number Me Too moment, a rejection of impossible standards in favor of raw, beautiful truth. The opening beats of Born This Way reached their crescendo as Sarah took her position at the runway entrance. Behind her, the other models had formed a line unlike anything the fashion world had seen before, each one embracing their natural features, their perceived flaws transformed into statements of strength. The midnight blue gown rippled around Sarah like a river of stars, her scar catching the light with every turn of her head. Victoria made one last desperate attempt. "This will ruin everything, the brand, the reputation, the—" "No," Lady Gaga cut her off, voice ringing with certainty. "This will save it." She turned to Sarah, eyes fierce with determination. "Show them what real beauty looks like. Show them what strength means." Sarah stepped onto the runway, and the world seemed to hold its breath. The photographer's flashes exploded like stars, capturing every angle of her unconcealed scar. But instead of shrinking from their scrutiny, she owned it, transforming her walk into a statement of defiance and grace. Each step declared that she belonged there, that beauty wasn't about perfection, it was about authenticity. The audience, initially stunned into silence, began to respond. It started with a single clap from Anna Wintour herself, then spread like wildfire. The applause grew to a roar, phones raised high, social media feeds flooding with images tagged number "Beauty Has No Scars" and number "Runway Revolution." Behind Sarah, the parade of models followed, each telling their own story through their walk, their scars, their proud imperfections. And at the backstage entrance, Lady Gaga watched with fierce pride as fashion history was rewritten, one authentic step at a time. The final walk had brought the house down. As Sarah led the lineup of models back through the curtain, the applause still thundered through the Palazzo della Moda. Tears streamed freely down faces, both on and off the runway, smearing carefully applied makeup, but revealing something far more precious: authenticity. Fashion editors were typing frantically on their phones, their usual cool detachment replaced by genuine excitement. Vogue's Instagram had already shared a photo of Sarah's opening walk with the caption, "The moment fashion changed forever, Runway Revolution." It had gained over 100,000 likes in less than 5 minutes. Victoria Blackwood stood in the corner, her perfectly curated world crumbling around her. But even she couldn't deny what she'd witnessed. The raw energy, the genuine emotion, the way the audience had connected with every authentic moment. Her phone was flooded with messages from designers, not with complaints about their clothes being showcased differently than planned, but with requests to book Sarah and the other models for future shows. The fashion industry's definition of beauty was being rewritten in real time. Lady Gaga's impromptu fashion revolution was already spreading beyond the Palazzo's walls. Major fashion houses were releasing statements about inclusivity and authenticity, while social media exploded with people sharing their own stories of scars and perceived imperfections. Beauty Has No Scars had become the #1 trending topic worldwide. Backstage, Sarah found herself surrounded by a crowd of journalists, their questions coming rapid fire. But it was a young makeup artist's quiet revelation that caught everyone's attention. She pulled back her sleeve to reveal burn scars from a childhood accident. "I've spent my career helping others hide their scars," she said, voice trembling. "Today, I'm done hiding mine." The other models were sharing their stories too, each one a testament to survival and strength. Even some of the front-row celebrities had joined in, posting their own unfiltered photos and stories of insecurity turned to empowerment. The movement was growing beyond fashion, becoming a global conversation about redefining beauty standards and embracing authentic self-expression. As the evening drew to a close, Lady Gaga and Sarah sat together on an empty makeup chair, sharing a quiet moment amid the continuing chaos. "You know, Gaga said, her voice soft but carrying the weight of experience. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply refuse to hide who we are. Sarah touched her scar gently, seeing it now through new eyes in the mirror. I never thought my biggest moment in fashion would come from being exactly what they told me I couldn't be. The next morning's headlines told the story. Fashion's new face. Beauty redefined. Vogue. The scar that changed fashion forever. Elle. Lady Gaga and the Runway Revolution. Harper's Bazaar. But perhaps the most powerful aftermath was visible on social media, where millions of people were sharing photos of their own scars, birthmarks, and imperfections with pride and defiance. Victoria Blackwood's final show had indeed made history, just not in the way she'd planned. In its place, a new era of fashion had begun, one where beauty wasn't about hiding your story, but about wearing it with pride.